podcast, and I'm foraying into the world of video. So here I am, and I'm ready to chat with all of you and get to know some of you. Pieces of Grit is a show that is dedicated to supporting women and amplifying the lives of women all over the place. A lot of the time I will do interviews. I want to amplify the lives of women who are doing so many amazing things out there in the world. Everything from education to modeling. I've interviewed women who are working with teenagers and not just teaching them how to be great models, but also teaching them some life skills to apply as they go along and grow. I love entrepreneurs. I have a very sweet spot for entrepreneurs. And so you'll see a lot of them on here. And even some other women who are just doing things personally, like helping overcome infertility. I think that's really important as women are trying to have a family. And infertility seems so widespread. We all know someone who has dealt with that. So I brought some women in who are experts on that topic, as well as the moms who have gone through infertility, failed IVF treatments even, and then have gone through the process of adoption. And not just the technical process, but the emotional and the mental piece of getting to the place where they can do adoption and become those parents. I also have someone who is a foster mom. And so I get to talk to her through that process and see what that journey has been like for her. So I want to amplify the lives of women all around me, in addition to amplifying your life. I hope that through the things that you hear on this show, whether it's just me talking or when I bring on these women, that you are challenged. They're not just good little stories, but that you are challenged to grow as a person, to dig deep, to look inside, and then take what you're learning and get out there and live louder, set big goals, dream big dreams. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but it's true. It's what I want. I want to challenge you. If anyone says anything about me when I die, whether it's tomorrow or 40 years from now, I hope that they say that I challenged them. So we'll see how this goes. Bear with me as I learn all of this. I'm just getting into it. And so I just thank you for all of your grace as we go. Today, I get to talk about core values. I didn't really get into core values until later in my 20s, maybe even my early 30s. And oh my gosh, I wish I had had this in my life so much earlier. It would have spared me a lot of misdirection, a lot of frustration. And so I'm sharing this with you in hopes that you don't have some of the same pain points that I did. What is a core value? Core values can be guides in our lives. They help us navigate life and make decisions that really align with who we are and who we were created to be. Your core values can be a gauge. They help you measure success. Like I just said, at the end of life, who do you want to be? What do you want people to say about you and remember about the way that you were? Not just the success that you had and maybe the things that you accumulated, but really who you were as a person. And then a code of conduct. Your core values can help you define your daily life in all areas and kind of be that Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder that's talking into your ear and helping you make decisions and navigate everything that comes up as you go through the day. We talk about how to discover your core values. So one of the things you can do is to consider your proudest moments. Look back in your life, and you might even want to get a piece of paper and write some of this down, but think about the things that have helped you define who you are and that make you really proud of you. It's a good indicator of your core values. So for me, two of those things are integrity and health. And I have a great story. People always crack up when I tell them this. So when I was living in Chattanooga, Tennessee in my 20s, I was doing some online dating and I agreed to meet this guy for coffee. And I told him, I said, look, I'm going for a run. I will meet you afterward. Don't get dressed up or whatever, because I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to show up because that's who I am. And sure enough, we met for coffee and I walked in and probably dripping sweat because I'm talking Chattanooga. It's in the South. It is humid. It is hot. This had to have been summer. And he looked at me and was so shocked that I had actually shown up sweaty and after a run. And he said, I've never seen another girl who would do that. And to me, I thought, well, this is who I am. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a girly girl that always does my hair. Clearly, you can see that I'm not. But I'm not going to pretend to be someone that I can't sustain. So take it or leave it, but this is what you get. I am a hot, sweaty mess, and it's gross. And integrity, the other half of that, is being who I am in front of people, just as I am when the doors are closed or when I'm with my family and my husband, and they get to see the ugly parts of me or the rawness. And so, yeah, I just want to be the same all around, give you a 360-degree view. Sometimes I will go to church on a Sunday right after a run. And my husband, Brooks, he is like, wait, I'll walk back in the door at home and say, yeah, here's what I did all morning. And he's like, wait a minute, you went in a public place like that? And I kind of go, yeah, I'm probably not going to go to Walmart in my pajamas, but yeah, I'll go to church in some sweaty running clothes because it's what I love and it's who I am. So there you go. But I think your core values can, as you're defining them, you can also take the reverse approach and look for the things that frustrate you or that bring you pain. Like, what is it that stirs you up on the inside? So using integrity again, I can flip that around. And one of the things that frustrates me the most is when I see someone who acts a certain way in one setting, and then you're around them with a different group of people, or when they're not around people at all, and maybe it's just you and that one person, and something totally different comes out. And that to me is a major pain point. It's, it may or may not be bad, but that helped me define my core values. Sorry, this stool that I'm sitting on is kind of wobbly intentionally, but so when you are discovering your core values, what do you want people to see in your life? I can't reiterate that enough. There are numerous lists of words to help you start to do this. If it feels too abstract, I would suggest thinking of things off the top of your head and writing them down. Make a list as long as you want. But in the notes, if you look down below, there is a link to a list of words to help you get started. And you're going to whittle those down. So don't totally copy this list because you are going to want to get it down to maybe 5 to 7 words. Your core values, that's the thing, they're core. It's not a million that are out there. As you're narrowing it down, if you start to get stuck, compare words to each other. So for example, you might have simplicity and gratitude. Take those two, think about them for a second, not too long because you don't want to overanalyze it, but just kind of think about what feels more connected to you. And this is a great way to bring other people into your life. You might want to have someone look at the list that you've narrowed down, even before you get it to 5 to 7. If you can get it to 10 to 15, have some people that are close to you and that you trust to give you honest feedback. Look at that list and see what they think about it. Healthy living is not just something that has to do with your physical health, with eating well and exercising, breathing fresh air, which I think all of those things are important. Those are definitely some of my core values. But healthy living is a 360-degree perspective. You need to take care of your mind. You need to take care of your emotions. Everyone has a spiritual side to them. And so it's important to develop ourselves holistically and focus on, give everything equal attention. It doesn't all have to be at the same time. There are rhythms. Balance, I think, is a little bit of a myth, but I think we can incorporate rhythms, and those could be circles, they can be ups and downs, however you want to look at it, whatever works for your brain. I'm pretty left-brained, so I tend to be fairly linear, and I can keep a list and say, okay, have I done anything in this category lately? Or maybe I need to shift and focus down to this bullet point and then go back up, but just do whatever works for you. So some of my other core values, just to give you a glimpse into who I am: independence. I've already mentioned health and integrity and challenging others to grow. It sounds kind of silly, but I'm going to explain it a little more. So let me clarify independence, which is kind of weird to list. Not everyone sees independence as something positive. I love working in a team. The organization that I work for right now, I have never worked with a better group of people, and I couldn't be more grateful for having them all in my life. However, it is important for me to grow and to find those healthy rhythms and take some time to be independent, to adventure by myself. I might go away just for a day trip, drive up the coast. I live in San Diego, so there's a million places that are just amazing to go to that are really close to where I live, or an overnight trip. I love running, and so sometimes I get to pace for organized races and just to head out of town. Even if I've driven 4 or 5 hours one direction, spent the night, got up super early in the morning, ran the race, hung out with people afterwards, and then drove back home that 4 or 5 hours. And there's just something about being out there on my own that really feeds my soul. And so it's important for me to do that. Another thing with challenging people to grow, being a challenger, which if you speak Enneagram, I'm not an 8, so I'm not a challenger in that way, but encouraging people to expand their potential and their limits, because I know that everyone has the capacity to do more than they think they can. After I left the corporate world in my 20s, I decided to get into personal training for a little while because I really wanted to do something that helped people. And since I like fitness and eating well and nutrition, that seemed like an easy transition. So I got into that, and I know I like pushing people to do an extra push-up or to add 5 more pounds onto their bench press or their leg press. And I can remember there was this one chick who she looked at me, and I've never been really muscular, so this is it. And she was like, oh, I kind of thought that since you were a personal trainer, probably the first time we were in the gym together, I thought that since you were a personal trainer, you would be stronger and have more muscle. And I thought, oh girl, you just asked for it. So I kicked her butt, I have to say. I did it. But I love challenging people to grow. And so even some of those things that are really important to me, they don't always happen organically. And so for you, as you define what your core values are, sometimes you have to go out and look for those opportunities and create spaces for yourself to continue growing. We're all dynamic. There's no way that we can just be stagnant and flatline through the rest of life. So you have to look for ways to increase your alignment with your core values. There are tons of books out there that you can read. There are online resources. I'm a podcast nut, so find a podcast if that's your thing. I like being able to multitask constantly. Even if I'm brushing my teeth, I feel bad if I don't have a podcast or something going, watching a YouTube video so that I can learn something. You can implement daily practices like the rhythm guide from Uncover Your Purpose, also linked in the notes below, and make goals specific to your values. You'll hear me talk about goals a lot. You need long-term goals and you need short-term goals. The long-term goals give you that vision. You need to have something big that is driving you forward. And then the smaller goals help prevent you from getting too frustrated. They give you milestones to celebrate, which is really important so that we don't get discouraged. Your core values can change over time. I don't necessarily think that we add core values, but I think as we mature and we increase our self-awareness, you become more aware of the depth of your values and how they connect with different pieces of your life. When you identify and own your values, they will put you in your zone. You'll find that sweet spot that helps you filter out opportunities. There are a lot of things that you can do in this life, but when you know your core values, it gives you a parameter that helps you choose the things that are going to bring you life and help you thrive. Everything that you need to succeed in this life and to be a happy and healthy person is already inside you. I firmly believe that you were born with everything that you need in this life. And as we age and we read books and we do all of these things, we draw out pieces of ourselves that inspire us. I know it sounds kind of funny, but we can inspire ourselves. With a little bit of effort and commitment, you can keep digging deeper to uncover all the potential that is inside you. I know you have so much more waiting for you in this life, and I'm really excited to hear how your values lead you into the next days and weeks. Don't be a stranger. Leave a note down below and let me know how your core values are going.